Jenny-Jaymes and our sidekick, Christian Cano, partner in crime, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you soon. Good morning, everybody. As Christian gets himself arranged here, not arraigned. That's a different one.
Arraigned. Freudian slip.
Absolutely. This is Two Queers in a Truck, and it is June 21st if you're seeing this. So, of course, we recorded always a week in advance. So the nation is still reeling from many things that have happened this week. Maybe we live in interesting times for sure. It's been a very surreal week. Happy birthday to Mr. Trump. It is his birthday today. He is 7 years old. I would be
how old is he?
77.
He's only a couple of years younger than Biden.
Oh yeah, they're just a few years apart, actually. And we'll talk about Trump's birthday a little bit later in the show. But how are you, Boo?
Good. Happy Pride. Still celebrating Pride Month?
Yeah, it'll be International Pride Month all the way to June 30th, and then the flag waving holiday will be next, which is 4th of July. All the flag wavers and a lot of Trumpkins will go nuts as they celebrate America, probably by driving their 4x4s over people's mailboxes, shooting their guns in the air, and getting busted with child porn. But anyway, we will start. The Southern Baptist Convention hates women. The SBC, which is normally called, is literally pushing two churches out of the SBC convention because they have female pastors serving in some kind of pastoral capacity. And some of these are very large churches. So one of them's like a music minister, I believe, and then one is the head of a small to medium-sized Baptist church in Kentucky. But I think it's very bizarre, considering Southern Baptist Convention's member churches having such a serious time with sex abuse and pedophilia in their ranks, is that why not put some women in some pastoral roles? Maybe it'll slow that kind of stuff down, maybe a little bit more nurturing. But the SBC is not known for making ethical decisions, and a lot of people conflate churches with morality and ethics. And I've rarely seen a church have either. And that's just the truth, is that religiosity does not equal morality at all. This assumption of piety and morality and arrogance that you get from churches and church leaders. But as we've seen, even in modern times, people that really thump their chest and thump the Bible and get all performative about it, I wouldn't trust them with anybody. I wouldn't trust them with my neighbor's dog, much less a human child or anybody that's vulnerable. Time and time again, when you read about people that are heads of pedophile rings, child abuse materials, grooming, I mean, the first thing I think of, I wonder what church they lead. I wonder how they're involved with what church. Did this happen in a church? And this has gone on a long, long time. This has gone on before you or I were even born. And churches have always got an excuse. The major churches, like the Catholic churches, are responsible for many genocide. It's not. I think it's just the supreme arrogance and the tremendous amount of guilt and blood that they have on their hands that they try to take. They try to assume that everybody's going to believe they have the moral high ground, and they force that narrative onto people to stay an authority figure. But honestly, churches are just businesses. Churches are problematic at best. Anytime that you are anointed by some kind of sky god, that's always a dangerous thing. I mean, because you're talking about, I mean, if you think you're talking to some kind of imaginary space creature, sky god, and it gives you some type of authority, most of the time they have special hospitals and special medications for you. It's a delusion.
Yeah, Jen, you and I both grew up, well, at least I did. I think you did too. I mean, I grew up in Texas. In my early years, the dominant religion in Texas was Southern Baptist, or at least where I lived. I mean, most of my friends, I would say 70% of my friends went to Baptist churches, Southern Baptist Church. There's a very, very small percentage of Catholics. I was probably one of 5 in my whole school that I remember. And there was I think it was Church of Christ, and then some Lutherans, little filters, but Southern Baptists were the biggest ones. And it's a very interesting, it's a weird situation, because I didn't grow up Baptist, but I have a lot of friends who grew up Baptist. And there's this weird, it's a very unique, I don't want to say weird because that's terrible for me to say that, but it's a very unique religion where there are very strong women in the Southern Baptist Church, but they like to be subservient. You know what I mean? And what's interesting about what you're talking about, because I read that this week, that they're kicking churches out, not for gay priests or, gay ministers or gay marriages. They're kicking churches out because they want females in their church. That's really, really 1950s. And this is really retro. I mean, it is weird.
I was thinking more like 1850s.
Yeah. That's right. That's true.
I mean, it is. I'm not shocked. I mean, because the alt-right, people say that both sides are moving away from each other. I don't think so. I think some of these more progressive Southern Baptist churches just realize that they want a different type of person in leadership in their churches. And I think it's so surreal. And I agree with you. I think it's one of the most bizarre choices that a very conservative president of the SBC is making, and forcing this agenda. And they're pretty sure, based on the reactions of the crowd, the voting members in the crowd, those churches are probably going to get kicked out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think in an era where church attendance is at all-time low, that Southern Baptist churches are dying left and right.
Yeah,
I would think you would want to keep as many performing churches in your portfolio as humanly possible.
Because one of them's a mega church.
Yeah, one of them a very large church. The one with the female music minister, music pastor, as they call her. And I think it's really, really bizarre move. And I think and I'm not advocating for them. I can't stand the Southern Baptist Church. But,
I know it's kind of like.
But I'm thinking, you guys aren't so smart. Just really, it's one of those preventable errors in judgment that you could just rectify by not being that stupid, and worry more about the pedos in your pastoral service and work on getting them out. That might be the keeper in that one. Just saying. Exactly. Going out on a layup is, People outside looking in, not real worried about a woman pastor. Pedophiles in your ranks and you're covering up for them. Yeah, that's probably what you need to concentrate on. Just saying. MTG is mad about flags and other things. The Gaylord Texas Resort and Convention Center in Grapevine, Texas, flew a pride flag this week, and she isn't having it. I guess they had a little conservative convention in or around there. She was super upset. She was super upset that a pride flag got flown at the White House during the transgender pride event. And I think it's ironic that a party that consistently, including on January 6th, flies flags for Trump, Confederate flags, and Nazi flags, was that worried about a pride flag. I guess if it's white supremacy flags, it's okay. It shows a lot about what they think about. But boy, you fly a rainbow flag of any kind or a trans flag, oh my gosh. I just think it's really funny. And I guess she's dating this reporter named Brian something or another, and he was talking about it in a report. It literally, not only was he slurring his words, he was obviously been drinking, which is not a shock. I mean, MTG's been caught on a hot night going, go get a bottle of the good stuff, not the screw top kind. And while she's in Congress, but I just think it's interesting, A, that she found somebody to date her. And B, I wonder if they met at the same glory hole at a swingers event. And they were both on the same side. You know what I mean?
That's funny you say that. So I completely agree with you. I think it is wonderful in a way that the MAGAs and the MAGA Republicans and these fake outrage people, they continue to give us material to talk about them. And so, we don't really have to, like you say all the time, Jenny, we don't have to make anything up. All we have to do is just tell people what they did. I mean, they're just, don't care. This fake outrage about flags, gas stoves, M&Ms, Bud Light, North Face. I mean, it's just,
and the whole gas stove thing really intrigued me because, number one, a lot of the places that use a predominant amount of gas are blue states. I mean, New York City almost exclusively uses gas appliances, especially stoves. In fact, the whole environmental protection thing and the monitoring thing, they're doing studies on the safety of gas stoves. And the whole controversy is that the federal government is studying how safe in certain closed-in spaces gas stoves really are. This is done to protect people. This is done they've never really done that extensive of a modern study on it. So they're studying it to see if it's even worth staying on a standard of gas. Many cities have outlawed gas stoves because of safety issues, explosions, house fires, getting poisoned by your own breathable air. It goes on and on. I can't tell you how many senior citizens have died by not lighting the gas stove, but keeping the gas on, and they just go to sleep of air poisoning and just pass away, and things like that. I mean, so it's a pretty warranted study. It's something that we pay the federal government to do. It's safety issues,
and it's fake outrage, Jenny. When I was growing up, I grew up in an older house in an older neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas, and we had a gas stove. And quite honestly, there was almost all of my friends all had electric stoves. That was like the thing. If you had a gas stove, I hate to say it like this, if you had a gas stove in Texas, or at least where I grew up, you were probably on the more working class poor side, unless you were like a cook. And then like, oh, I have to have a gas stove because it makes the food better. But almost all my family, the whole thing was, I've got a new house and I've got an electric stove,
Yeah,
And so, yeah. So when you look at all these people, especially the ones who represent allegedly in Texas, oh, don't take my gas. There are very few people that have a new house in Texas that have a gas stove, unless you're Paula Dean,
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and I want to say something about that. We'll take our first break, and we'll be right back with some more Two Queers and a Track. Hey, y'all! It's International Pride Month, and I want to wish everybody, our fellow queer neighbors and our allies, a happy Pride Month. Spend money in Target and your local queer Black and brown businesses as well. But happy Pride. Thanks for watching this show, and be safe out there.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Dave. Hey, everybody. You can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers and a Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. Happy Pride. And we are back. And what I was going to quickly say is that was a bougie status symbol when we were kids, because we grew up in the same area.
Exactly.
And it also kind of denoted that you lived in a big city.
Yes.
Like my grandmother and grandfather, my dad's parents had a gas stove, but they lived in a very, very small rural town, and they didn't have a lot of money, and their house wasn't brand new, but it wasn't super old. But most people out that way cooked with gas stoves, some with propane gas stoves, because they didn't have a gas. But it was very much a rural thing when we were growing up. It very much a denote of income levels, how new your house is. Like, electric stoves very much were kind of controversial then. A lot of old school people bitched about them. And there were also a lot of different. There were like the electric like coils on top of the stove. They weren't these like glass top things now and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember being in different homes. Some homes had gas, some had electric when I was a kid. You almost never see a gas stove now, except maybe in certain climates where gas is just more accessible and makes more sense. Things like that, or in certain older school cities, like New York City is a very old city, and gas was the preferred method. Also, electricity's also been expensive at times in New York, and so they want to use as little electricity as possible. The next topic's probably not as fun. Close to 260,000 trans people and their families have fled red states this year. It's one of the probably most inter-America refugee situations and flight situations in that short time, probably in decades, if not a century. And really it's because so many states have still banned trans healthcare, especially youth trans healthcare, and are threatening to restrict adult healthcare. Trans people have had enough, and their families that they live with have had enough. Some states have actually seized trans kids and called it child abuse, letting them transition. And so states are actually becoming refugee states, like New York, Maryland, Colorado, California, of course, that are not only having to pass bills and legislation to receive them, but also protect them from prosecution, stating that the the other states don't have any authority of extradition back, and reason being is because of these crazy bills. 75 bills, almost every one of them is either targeting the drag community or the trans community. Over 500 bills suggested in 41 states. It's just kind of crazy that of all the things that these states need to be passing and concentrating on is trans people and drag queens. It's just very bizarre. It's not a coincidence that it's both, because a lot of the bills read more like an anti-trans thing than actually anti-drag, because it's more talking about gender presentation, rather than specifically drag performances. And that's why the drag bills are getting struck down, because they are so vague and so nebulous. They're going, this isn't even, as a first of all, you can't ban drag performances. Second of all, they're so vague, it can apply to a lot of things. And these judges, whether they're known to be conservative or progressive judges, are saying, you don't need a bill like this. This bill could be weaponized against us, was what they're really wanting to say. But in general, they're going, this is stupid. And then the anti-trans bill in Florida has already had its first court loss in a multiple family lawsuit against the state of Florida. So you're seeing these things beat back, but the Republicans are pressing on and trying to go after doctors and go after all these institutions and make life so miserable. A lot of families are just saying, eventually they're just going to come and arrest us. It's just not worth staying, and they'd rather flee their home and end up somewhere else where the government is at least affirming. But I think it's how far authoritarian the Republican Party's gone when they've created 250,000 refugees inside the United States, and all the more reason why next year is so important. And honestly, holding Republicans accountable, like Trump, making sure that when they are brought up on wrongdoings, allegedly, that they get held accountable. We have to hold people like MTG to a standard. We have to hold Trump to a standard, Santos to a standard, because if you don't, look at what they do give us as government. And we need to say that. Like, we've got American refugees because they're trying to outlaw a certain type of person, including kids. And the Republicans hate kids. And that's what needs to be said. They're targeting children. Children. They went to a doctor with the permission of their guardians and parents and are now being outlawed. And if we don't, and we don't hold them to a standard, then we don't really have a democracy. And this is more to the Democrats and to the independents. Do you want a government that's targeting individuals? What happens when that changes to you? What happens when they find you to be unsavory? That you're a white person that isn't white enough, or you go to the wrong type of church, or whatever they dream up to be woke or progressive or anti-American. The fact that they can pick a group of people and say, y'all should be completely outlawed and your medical care should be stripped from you, even though there's more non-trans people on hormones than trans people that are on hormones. It's weird how it's okay for a non-trans person to take hormones, but a trans person takes hormones, and it's grooming, and it's this, and it's that, and well, that couldn't be any further from the truth. Allen versus Milligan gives Louisiana, South Carolina, Florida a shot at fair maps. Alabama obviously was a big story of last week, or technically 2 weeks ago, if you're seeing this. It was the thing that ruled that Alabama's maps were illegal and unethical. And once again, Republicans are in trouble again in the courts. So they have to redo their maps to give fair representation to people of color specifically. They were designed to cancel out Alabama's quite large black population and stripping them of the voting power and the representation that they deserve. So now Louisiana, South Carolina, and Florida, there's lawsuits being considered in all those two states to redraw the maps and represent their large black populations as well, because those states have very large black populations.
And especially Florida, Jenny, as you mentioned, because DeSantis purposely redrew maps, and he was not bashful about cutting black voters out. DeSantis is, he's just a very subtle racist. He doesn't hide his racism. He just doesn't say the N-word, or he's not he's anyone, if you follow DeSantis from his very beginning to becoming governor, and how he's aligning with the type of people that he's aligning with, like the Moms for Liberty and all those people, he is basically he is not shy about saying, I don't really like black and brown people. Yeah. Now, if you're brown, I want you to be light brown. I want you to be Cuban. I want you to be, but I don't like Dominicans. I don't like, Puerto Ricans. He's very, and people just assume because his name is DeSantis, he must have some type of ethnic loyalty or whatever. He is like a racist Cuban. There's a lot of them, and Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. That they are. It's if you look at him, and that's what's so frustrating for me, Jenny. Sorry to ramble here, but frustrating for me is the black Floridians took them a long time to come around to realize, holy shit, he don't like none of us, because they were okay with, oh, he's just going after the gays. He doesn't know where to come after us. No, he don't want little black kids reading about black stuff either. So he's a legit authoritarian Nazi. He's equal opportunity hate. He's just got hot and cold running hate. And just because he's fixated on queers does not mean behind the scenes he's in fucking other minorities over. Like he stripped away all progressive acknowledgement of black history in the university system. Don't tell me that isn't racist. This anti-woke stuff, every time they say something that's anti-woke, even though they don't really know what woke is, that's a jab at the black community. That exactly. Phrase originated in black communities, saying stay woke, stay aware, keep your head on a swivel. So anti-woke is racist by deal. They're just trying to co-opt what the word means, which they're saying is more of a liberal term. Or basically anything they don't like. Like, they can claim the guy's woke if they need to. Like, it's one of these catch-all phrases, kind of like calling all progressive people communists or commies. It's like when they use cancel culture,
Yeah.
Are politically correct, as you mentioned, politically correct.
But no matter what the phrase of the era is, it's one of those. It's easy. It's a 4-letter word, so it's easy for them to remember. And I think some of them actually spell it. But Republicans, first of all, are very smart. They never understand what the words are even saying. But second of all, it's a very easy to say, oh, that's just woke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's a catch-all. It's like the catch-all drawer in your kitchen. Yeah. You got fucking chingaderises and fucking, all kinds of stuff in your fucking catch-all drawer. Woke is the catch-all drawer of words right now for them. Mm-hmm. Woke. Like they wake up and they're probably chanting woke. But we are up against our second break, and we'll be right back with more Two Queers in the Truck.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Chords in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show. Hey everyone, we just want to wish you a happy Pride. June is International Pride Month and we're celebrating it all month long. Also, we do want to thank those who watch us on Facebook and YouTube, and the people who now listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. We want to thank you. Don't forget that our summer schedule is out, so we have our topics that we'll be covering in July and also in August. And just want to say happy Pride. I'll dance out. Happy Pride, everyone.
And we are back. Rosie flashes in solidarity, and the Republicans lose it. So a trans activist, actually somebody that I know from Los Angeles, California, Rosie Montoya, was in kind of a lineup or a conversation, and a couple trans men were pulling up their shirts and showing where their scars were to reporters and all that. And Rosie's is a very flamboyant, funny trans woman. I follow her on Deal. I've had many conversations with her on Instagram. I think she's a great lady, funny as hell. And she decides to, in solidarity, to pull up her shirt, or pull it down. I think she had kind of a halter neck on, and expose her breasts on the White House lawn. Because she's a little cheeky. She is funny. I probably would have done the same thing, especially if my boobs look like hers. She's very young. She's very pretty. She's a gorgeous little Latina there. And the Republicans, like Tony Blair and all these people, went nuts. They absolutely just went ballistic. I mean, between the pride flag hanging from the White House and Rosie flashing her boobs, they have absolutely, for one, it's not illegal to go topless in Washington, D.C. Number two, there has been way worse things emanating out of that White House recently from Trump. Let's just say that planning an insurrection, and the president of the United States, the occupant of the White House, planned for weeks an insurrection, an attack on the Capitol. If I'm going to say things that have emanated out of the White House that have been inappropriate, I'm thinking a boob flash is pretty low on the list compared to what Trump did. And the fact that he stole records, secrets from said White House, and moved it to his bathroom in Mar-a-Lago. There's like a crapper right there. And, illegal secrets are probably getting 400 years in prison. And they're fixated on her boobs. And she's getting bashed on Instagram. She's getting bashed on her own page. And I would have said, who cares if she flashed her boobs and then put her top back on? And this tells you the state of the Republican Party when they are obsessed with flags and boobs. Boobs aren't just genitalia. There's no genitalia there. And boobs are boobs. Whether they're man boobs, whether they're girl boobs, no matter what it is, it's not the end of the world. Have you ever been to a beach or a Hooters? The tops that they wear at Hooters, you can see everything. And conservative men take their sons and daughters, young children, to Hooters all the time. And their uniforms, between their tops and bottoms that they wear, they're pretty transparent. You can see the outline of most of those girls' genitalia and boobs. Like the uniforms are designed to leave no skin to be imagined about. They might as well be naked. And you see conservatives posing in front with Hooters girls. They make little boys, sit there while the Hooters girls kiss them on each cheek. and sexualizing kids, and we're worried about Rosie's boobs. Have you ever seen any of the NFL uniforms for cheerleaders? How about for the football players? The things are so skin tight, you can clearly see their ass and their crotch. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the violence that we saw on January 6th would harm children a way more than a boob flash at the White House when kids have already seen boobs on a daily basis. And, was it probably the best thing for her to do? Probably not. She just wasn't thinking, and she didn't know she was going to judge it harshly, since other trans men were showing and exposing their chest. But that's the double standard of society. If a woman does something, they go ballistic over it. Unless you're Kim Kardashian, and then it makes you a billionaire, with her sex tape.
But don't you think, Jenny? Because I didn't know about this until yesterday when I saw the White House press secretary say that it was inappropriate, sure. And it was she's no longer. Those who did that will not be invited back to the White House.
Right.
And so the sad thing I think about that episode was it took the focus off what the event was. And instead of us, because we're not talking about the transgender, we're talking about her boobs. And she became the focus instead of, it wasn't about her. It was about the White House for the first time ever having an event for transgender Americans. Sure. It had never been done before. And unfortunately, because we live in a society, and it's not a good thing, but it's a reality, that they're looking for any little thing to nitpick anything like that. And she could be, yeah, okay.
As a trans woman,
yeah,
quite a bit older than Rosie, I think that she caught a lot of hate because I would say if Caitlyn Jenner did it, for example, if she exposed her boobs, not just at the White House, but anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think it's different though, Jenny. I think it is different at the White House because she was with it would be like her coming to my house and doing that in front of my guest. She's not at her house. She's at my house. She's my guest. She has to respect the house that she's at. If she wanted to do that, do it at her own house.
Dude, if we wanted to respect the White House, hang on a second.
Yeah.
This is what gives me the red eyes, and this is mostly coming from men.
Sure.
And this is a very sexist thing, in my opinion.
Okay.
None of those trans men are taking any heat for showing their scars and exposing themselves.
That's not what the White House said. The White House, it was all inappropriate. The actions of those individuals were all inappropriate.
Well, why fixate on Rosie? Everybody.
Well, the White House didn't fix it.
Nobody mentioned what?
Yeah. The White House didn't fix it. No. I saw the press conference because when it came out yesterday, I was like, what was going on?
I'm saying everybody else's. Everybody else's is
okay.
The trans men themselves.
Sure.
By the mouth breathing public, nobody's fixating on them. Nobody's hammering them. Yeah. Only Rosie's getting mentioned, other than the White House press corps, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Why should she take this single amount of public outcry? And I think this speaks to a lot of things. I think this speaks to misogyny. I think the anti-trans movement is really attacking trans women. And as a trans woman, I face way more heat than my trans male counterparts do.
Yeah, that's true.
I find that interesting when we talk about kids' sports and so many other things. In kids' sports, for example, when you pass a bill in the law saying you have to compete in the division that is connected to your genitalia at birth, meaning that you're born as an AFAB or assigned female at birth, that you have to, even if you transition and are on testosterone and strong as fuck, you still have to compete against, cis girls, for example.
Sure.
And I think it's when we have these hearings in these different states, especially like in Texas and Florida and Kansas recently, they only fixated on trans girls participating in sports, when in fact the most heinous division has been trans males competing against cis girls. The state of Texas, with Mac, that wrestler that won 2 state championships easily in his weight division because he's strong for fuck. And yet we don't hear that outcry. Tony Lear didn't talk about the trans man. A whole bunch of other pundits said, well, that's terrible what Rosie did, not even mentioning the trans man. Yeah, I don't think it was their smartest moment. I agree. I don't think she shouldn't have done it. I don't think that she should have done it, but not for the same reasons you mentioned. I think the fact that it put her life in danger, the fact that she's going to take a lot of heat, it's probably going to hurt her career. I feel bad for that, but I see so many assholes out there doing way worse than her.
No, I agree with that.
A lot. I feel like a lot of the heat is coming from, trans female misogyny and misogyny in general, because a woman does not get the same type of forgiveness and free passes that men get. And men get away with a lot more and don't get judged as harshly. I think it says a lot more about our society than Rosie Montoya, and my personal opinion. Would I want this for her? No. If I could have told her right before the event, hey, babe, I love you. I know what you're trying to do, but this isn't the place for her. I do agree. I'm not super pumped about her doing it because I'm more worried for her. And how she's being vilified. When the White House, about 2.5 years ago, was a cesspool, but does one cancel out another? Now, is it grooming what she did? Absolutely not.
And I heard her. Sorry to interrupt you, Jen. I heard her explanation, and I understand what she was. I understand what she was saying. She's never going to be able to say anything that the people who don't like it, they're just not going to like it. It's going to be used for all kinds of reasons now. And what she said was she was caught up in the moment. It was as as a transgender woman, to be able to be in that moment. It was just kind of like an overwhelming kind of thing. Quite honestly, I equate it to someone in a church who starts speaking in tongues, who are just caught up in the moment. I think the challenge that we have with that situation is the unfortunateness of that situation is going to be it feeds into so many stereotypes. And I'll give you an example. There are gay men, and I know many of them who will say, well, this is the reason that we don't want people who organize groups and whatever. This is the reason that we don't want these type of people leading the parade, because we don't know. They may do something that's going to be crazy or whatever. And it's unfortunate because it just feeds into so many darn stereotypes. And to your point, when I saw that report, my first thing was, oh man, it's just, she's never going to be able to say anything that is going to, that is other than maybe the only thing that I can think of is maybe if she said, continue to say what she said, I was caught up in the moment. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't, something to that effect. I think that would maybe kind of pump like the damage, so to speak, for her.
I think, and we've seen people use things like this to promote or build up their career. The most famous thing was the Kim Kardashian sex tape. It made Kim an international. She purposely made a sex tape with her significant other at that time and then purposely leaked it. And now we don't even think about that anymore. It's hardly ever mentioned 20 years later. But 20 years later, Kim Kardashian is actually a billionaire. which is crazy to believe that it all started with the stunt of the sex tape 20 years ago. I do think over time, first of all, it's not the worst thing in the world what she did. Was the place and the time really, really unfortunate and awkward? Was it a bad decision for herself personally? Absolutely. As I can consider myself as a friend and definitely an acquaintance of Rosie, I feel bad for her more than anything because she is young. She is super cute. She's super fun. Many of her little TED Talks are very, very good. She is really, really smart, but she's a really smart young woman that maybe didn't make the best decision in the world for herself. And that, I understand why she's claiming to have done it, but I think she hurt more. The only person she really hurt was herself. She didn't hurt the trans community. The people that hate us are going to hate us no matter what. They would hate, first of all, she actually is a legit model. She does modeling work, and I'm not talking about fans only modeling, but actually legit runway work. She is stunning. She's about as pretty as you get. But what I'm afraid is this overreaction or backlash against her and other people like her that make a very harmless mistake. She didn't expose herself really any more than a cheerleader, a professional cheerleader, or a Hooters girl. And we don't hear those same chuckle fucks are coming down on her like a ton of bricks because it was at the White House and trying to elevate the White House to someplace that's sacrosanct. It's a house. Have I hosted house parties where boobs flash and probably some other things got flashed at? Absolutely. If you get enough booze in somebody, and some people don't even need the booze to do that. It's not did somebody get groomed? Absolutely not. Grooming takes a long period of time, and it usually takes someone with some power. Rosie has no power. It's not grooming. Authority figures are the only people that can groom people because the grooming process takes an authority figure that a child would actually be intimidated not to say anything, allow things to happen by the power dynamic. Rosie has no power. It was a boob flash. It was not. She didn't walk around the lawn for extended periods of time. They barely caught it on camera. And her nipples weren't even exposed. She covered those up with her arm. It's just one of those awkward things. It may even propel her career at some point in time, kind of like the Kim Kardashian sex tape, which actually had sex in it. And at the end of the day, I think it's a much ado about nothing. And I think people are trying to take advantage of this and try to.
Oh, yeah. It will be
the same week.
It will be about a month. Yeah. Yeah.
In the same week that their cult leader got arraigned for smuggling and defying court orders to hand over top secret information, and you wonder why. At the same time, his son-in-law gets paid $2 billion from the Saudi government.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're insisting on hanging on to these secrets.
Yeah.
Just saying. Well, in the grand scheme of things, of world issues, Rosie's boobs probably rank pretty low, even though I can appreciate how pretty they are. But I wanted to just touch the last subject real quick. Happy birthday, former scumbag Trump. Hope you rot in prison. I hope that's where you eventually meet your maker. And it is interesting that his birthday, being 77, is officially higher than his IQ. But on that note, we will end the show because we are up against time. So if we can cue the music on our way out.
We can.
Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Happy Pride Month. Bye, boo.
Thanks for watching, guys, and keep celebrating Pride. Keep celebrating diversity and inclusion and have yourself a great Pride Month, like for Republicans. Bye.
Bye, Boo. I don't know if I know Barb said that she will be back next week, but I haven't heard from her, so I assume she will be back. So
she said last week,
yeah,
but I haven't heard counter to that. That does not mean that she will be back, because I know a lot's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. Well, then give me about 5 minutes because I got to hook up these other cameras.
Yeah.
All right.